Camp New Horizons was formerly known as Camp Rolling Hills, where last year 19 people were brutally slain by alleged psychopath Angela Baker. Baker, also known as the Angel of Death, was allegedly responsible for another string of grisly murders 7 years ago at nearby Camp Arawak, which has since closed.
Things have changed here.
Welcome back to the Hiding for Horrors podcast, where we review horror movies and horror franchises. I'm Mark,
I'm Tuan.
and today we're reviewing Sleepaway Camp 3, Teenage Wasteland, released in 1989, directed by Michael A. Simpson, and written by Fritz Gordon. Tuan, can you give the people the plot summary?
Psychotic Angela is itching to do what she does best, slaughter dozens of teenage campers. As luck will have it, the previous site of her murders has been renamed and converted into an experimental summer camp meant to bring together privileged and lower-class teens. On the day the youths are boarding the buses to camp, Angela runs over a potential camper with a garbage truck and assumes her identity. Once she has infiltrated the camp, the real terror begins.
I just want to hop right into it. The concept, storyline for this movie is so confusing and dumb. Why would a bunch of privileged people send their well-to-do children to a camp with underprivileged lower class teens? I get why I get why the lower class teens would want to be in the vicinity of the upper class privileged kids, but I don't get the opposite side of that. Like what does that do for the privileged parents? Does it give them good publicity? Does it like why am I sending my kids to this camp? If it was like a reform camp type of thing, it would make more sense. Because also, these kids look like they're about to like graduate high school. Like I'm
That is
saying, like
true.
like 17, 18, maybe 19. Like, why are they at a sleepaway camp anyway?
That part is true. They definitely look they look a little old.
Like this is the first time where I don't believe any of the kids or the teens in this movie. At least the last two, like the teens and the kids were believable and the scenario was believable, but this is unbelievable. This whole movie's unbelievable, and I don't know. This movie was just weird. Like everyone just felt bored and uninterested, like they didn't want to be there. My saving grace in the last movie was Angela, but she seemed so disinterested and like she was just there for the paycheck. Like the plot, like the movie looked nice. It looked good for a low budget 80s slasher, but like other than that, like what are your thoughts, Torn?
Yeah, so this was not a good one as well. Just like the second one, this was just not a good one. Um if I felt like in the second one, like a lot of scenes and stuff, they were using like the first take or like maybe like the second take when things were happening or people were doing their scenes. In this one, it definitely felt like that. Like I felt like I was watching like test footage for a lot of scenes. Like some stuff just didn't feel like they tried multiple times to get a shot or a sequence. It was just like, all right, y'all, we got X amount of time to make this happen. Let's go through scenes 5, 6, and 7. We don't have no times for reshoots. Let's go. And they did that. It felt like they actually did that because I don't know what was going on the entire time. Like it was just not really. Yeah, it just did not feel like it was coming together like it should. Um, to add on to kind of what Mark was saying, I'm also kind of in agreement. Like it would have just been better if they just made it a camp for troubled youth instead of like, oh, we're gonna bring privileged kids and troubled youth. Making it just troubled youth would probably honestly give Angela more reason to do things than she did in the last movie, considering that she would find them to not be good people off the rip, just due to them being like troubled youths and stuff like that. But even
And not to cut you off, but also like This was so offensive because not just offensive by the characterization each one of them had, but also where they were from. Why is a Hispanic kid from Los Angeles in a game?
Arab, San Francisco.
Do you have a last name, Arab?
No, do I need one?
Right.
You?
Snowboy of Chicago.
Anita Bertram, Sawtell Gap, Kentucky.
Rev, Detroit. Tony De Herrera, East.
Like, be fucking for real, please. And then the privileged white girl is racist. Like, again, 80s slasher movies. All the characters had like the archetypes they fit, but like this is just laziness and offensive, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Because the moment he was like, "I'm Riff, I'm from Detroit," and the other guy was like, "Oh, I'm from Los Angeles," I was like, "Oh, y'all not even trying. Y'all just outright being stupid and offensive."
Also, what the fuck were those names anyway? That shit sounded so stupid. Like I get it was supposed to sound like in like 80s cool like nicknames for like a gang member or something like that, but like
Is
they were
that what
so
that was?
corny. They were so corny with it. I feel well, honestly, I'm getting that honestly, I'm thinking about a skit. If I'm being quite honest with you, I'm thinking of like a skit I saw before where it was kind of the same thing, but it doesn't. I don't know if that was supposed to come off to try to make them cool.
I'm pretty sure
It,
they were named after. I mean, named after something. Like, given how like the last movie they were all named after like the Brat Pack. I'm pretty sure they're named after like they're like some '80s reference that we don't get, and it's sad because I don't get it, and I usually do. But I don't know where those names came from.
there were definitely some options there. Not a lot of good ones, but some words were said. Some could say. um, One thing that I will say I think saved this movie is the runtime because it was incredibly short. Um, I think when I looked it up, the runtime was about 78 minutes, which is it's a really short movie. I don't mind a quick watch, but I felt like I turned this movie on and it was immediately off. Not saying that that was an issue here for me because I was not that engaged with it overall, and even less so than the second one. Like I know in the second one, I definitely passed on that one, didn't give it a cash, and I was not really interested in what was going on in that one. But there was, some genuinely like funny moments, whether they were intentional or unintentional, within that second one. But in this one, there really wasn't even much of that, and the whole little side plot of like the cop being there from the father of the second movie, one of the kids from the second movie, and him being there, like you thought it maybe would have added something. It really didn't, and it didn't do anything even at the end of the movie. So it was just a lot of stuff kind of going on here that really, yeah, like I mentioned, it just didn't come together, and it it felt very half baked, which we'll kind of get into more in our like behind the scenes of it and like fun facts as to why that kind of is. But yeah, it didn't feel like this one could be saved as much as they a bit with the second one, in my opinion.
Whatever, yeah, whatever like charm or whatever that second one was able to hold on from the first one, this one has none of that. It doesn't even have the so bad it's funny moments like the
Hmm.
last one had. This one is just like bad, and I just don't understand. It's the same writer and same director, and I just don't know what happened. It's so
In the same
disconnected, and
weekend.
yes, that's yes, which is very sad. And it's like I don't. It's just a lot. But were there any scenes that stood out for you? Scenes or kills, good, bad, or indifferent?
I mean, I guess the one thing out of all these movies I could say is that Angela's definitely creative with the kills. She gave us across the movie since she's just been like, well, especially these two, the second one, the third one, but also including the first one. Angela is definitely she got a good little kill count going with how she takes people out, giving that lady the like cleaning powder and telling her that it was coke.
Here. It's a little much, isn't it?
It's a gift. You're my favorite newscaster.
Pretty good stuff.
It'll really clean your pipes.
Happy camping.
Thanks. Have a nice life. God. What's left of it?
That that was a
That
little
was
bit funny.
diabolical. I forgot about that kill when I rewatched this, and I was like, "Oh, that's diabolical."
That
Especially your
was
first kill.
that was actually a pretty good kill. I can't even lie. That one was all right. Um, I mean, the kills might just be the best part, even though they had to take a little, well, not a little, a lot of parts of them out to match up with the MPAA and what they wanted to see. But yeah, the kills might have been the best part. So that one with the cleaning powder, that one was a decent one. Towards the end, where she had the three campers, including Tony, play like the trust game, quote unquote.
The object of the game is to stay alive. The rules are simple. Marcia is in one of the three cabins behind you. Is she in cabin number 1, cabin number 2?
And they were all tied to each other, and they had to find Marcia. And she had the axes come down to kill the two girls on the side of Tony. That one was pretty decent kill. Um the firecrackers to the face for the one kid, that was also like a fairly interesting one. And yeah, as far as like ones that I'm like actively remembering as like being good to me, those were good. And actually, the last one that I do remember liking was when um she put the girl up on the pole in like a wedgie and then like dropped her down on the head like the was that like a wiffle
That
ball thing?
was actually a good scene. I was like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, that was actually a pretty good kill. That was given like Jason, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I think out of everything, those might be the ones that kind of came to me the most, just thinking off the top of my head. But as far as any actual scenes, um,
Oh, I
yeah,
have.
I guess it's.
Well,
I
actually,
know you good.
I thought no, I thought I had a kill, but it's not a kill. It's actually a scene, and it's the scene with Marsha and Angela, because Marsha was low key whooping her ass at the end. Like Marsha
You're
beat
right.
that girl's ass. Marsha
You're right.
beat her ass. And I was so mad when Tony came in and stopped. I'm like, no, Tony, let her get two more stabs in. Let's just do it.
Let her
Let's
get
just
her
do it.
lick back.
Yes. Um, but I only have like one comment on kills. The ambulance kill took me out. That's when I was officially done. I was glad it was over with because the kill setup, it was so predictable. I knew it was coming, and then the stupid little one-liner, that whole sequence. I was glad to cut the movie off after that.
Yeah, one more scene that I was gonna bring up, which we neither of us brought up, was the at the beginning with the truck. How she ran that girl over.
Oh my God! Yes, yes.
I Cause what the fuck? I was like when I was like not expecting that when we first turned on the movie. That girl was getting chased by that truck. But yeah, I think that might be it for me.
Well, let's move on to our characters. We have a short list. We can talk about him briefly. Officer Officer Whitmore, aka Barney. Only really bringing him up because he's the dad of Sean from the last movie. Sean was the one who was Molly's boyfriend, who got his head chopped off in that very poor shot scene. Um, we don't really have much to say about him. I just thought we should bring him up because he was a character of someone who died in the last movie, like to be there getting revenge, and he should have a bigger part in this movie, but he doesn't, and that's kind of what makes it stand out because like you would expect him to have a more like noticeable role, but he didn't. It was just like we're gonna throw this character in here and then we're gonna kill him, and then that's just it. So, but Tuan, what are your thoughts on Tony and Marsha?
I wasn't expecting to be put on the spot like this. Let me stop. Um, yeah, they were more boring than the last two we got. Another one whose names I also don't remember, and I would say I feel bad for not remembering their names, but I really don't at this point because I feel like the movies are also wasting my time. And these characters, they really had nothing to kind of add here. Like Marsha nor Marsha nor Tony did anything. The only thing that they did was introduce themselves at the beginning and kind of have like a mini relationship that Angela found to be okay. And that was it. And I'm sure like somehow somebody could probably stretch a bit more out of like that just from, Angela in the past and like how she was doing, but yeah, I don't really think it's kind of even worth delving into that, and that might be a little not anticlimactic, but that might not be what some listeners might be looking for, but I just don't feel it was really worth my time.
Well, hopping over to Angela,
Oh, Miss Girl.
I felt like she was the saving grace in the last movie, and I see bad performances in a really bad plot and script. I felt like Pamela Springsteen gave a good performance. I don't know what happened with this one. Maybe she was tired, she was worn out, and she was ready to just go home because Homegirl was phoning it in, and the one-liners weren't doing it for me. The acting wasn't doing it for me. The character of Angela wasn't doing it for me. Like they made her insufferable. Like she's so self-righteous and has all these rules and regulations. But lady, you're killing people. Like it's, yes, they're having teenage sex and yes, they're smoking marijuana, but you're murdering people over the smallest petty little like injustice. Like, I'm not rooting for you. You're stupid and annoying. And she was also those things last time, but the acting was there. And it's not here this time, so she's just annoying and a busybody and over opinionated. She's the murderous Karen and she was pissing me off the entire time. What about you, Tawan?
Yeah, nothing was really saving, Angela this time. Just like you mentioned, and at least in the second one, I was getting by how unintentionally like funny she was, or some of them was like intentional line readings and things like that. But within this one, besides like the kills and like the body count being raised, there wasn't much to go off of with this Angela. Like in the last one, she tried to make it seem like these were like impure like people or campers or girls, and she was like cleansing them by kind of like killing them. But in this one, it's like, oh, girls like, well, shit, I just like to kill just to kill. And I'm gonna do it at the camp because that's the easiest way to get them. Because what's even the motive anymore of it? And it's not saying there has to be one. Like, there are a lot of slashers like that where it's not even a motive, like Friday 13th type stuff, for example. Like Jason's just kind of doing what he do in the later ones. But if you're gonna set us up with that kind of like thought in mind for what we are going into, I'm gonna expect that for the rest of them, and not getting that, and just having the character in location so that they can rack up a body count. It, in my head, it kind of degresses the character and also just like the story that we're watching at the same time, and it doesn't make it feel like it's going anywhere, which it really didn't. Because I mean, well, I guess. Well, we don't know because off-screen deaths type stuff. So we don't know if Angela's dead or not by the end of this. But the only thing that the only progress that we made is possibly that she might be dead, which that's not really much to go off of or do with. There wasn't anything like in the in between that was done with the character. She was really just like a proxy to get more like kills up, which is I think I felt a little bit that way in the second one as well. Like things were just put in place for her to add more people to the kill count, which, like I mentioned, in a slasher movie isn't always the worst thing. But in the way that they set us up for Angela in the second one, it just is not. It's not following or tracking the same across both. And these movies were shot back to back, so I don't see how that was not picked up on.
Well, we have come to our favorite part of the podcast. Tuan, you can give the people the behind the scene info and facts.
Sleepaway Camp 3, Teenage Wasteland had a budget of $465,000. The box office for the movie is unlisted at the moment. Some interesting facts. Like the first sequel, the third film was shot at a YMCA youth camp in Atlanta and Waco, Georgia. The first two sequels were shot back to back, with part 3 beginning production 3 days after the second film had finished. Shooting took place from October 12th through October 31st, 1987, marking both movies over. Oh, sorry. Making both movies over a 6-week period. That is so fast. That is so fast for a movie. Like, I'm sure a lot of you who probably listen, like you maybe are familiar with movies and like maybe a little more back end because you probably like ingrained in them. But even if you're not, 6 weeks is so quick to like film one movie, but let alone two movies back to back like this. Some movies take like 6 weeks to get one sequence right, and they're shooting back to back whole movies in that time frame. Definitely makes sense as to the product that we got here.
6 weeks sometimes is just for reshoots, not
Hmm.
the actual regular production. 6 weeks can be dedicated to just reshoots. So this is insane. They made two movies in 6 weeks.
Like that's insane. That's actually insane. Like the fact they got it done is crazy. Moving on, though, for our next interesting fact, several sequences of violence had to be trimmed in order for the MPAA to give the film an R rating. Anchor Bay Entertainment included some of this deleted footage on its 2002 DVD release. Most of the characters in the film are named after characters from West Side Story, The Brady Bunch, and The Munsters. The movie released as Nightmare Vacation 3 in the United Kingdom. And lastly, the film's subtitle, Teenage Wasteland, comes from one of the director's favorite songs, The Who's Baba O'Reilly. Critics' reactions. The film currently sits at a 13% on Rotten Tomatoes. A Rotten Tomato reviewer stated the movie was both aimless and more problematically humorless. Content collapsed. Pamela Springsteen is still firing on all cylinders, but this third entry is missing the energy that made the first sequel such a pleasant surprise. And lastly, on IMDb, you have a fan stating, if you ignore the fact that the busiest serial killer in the world has no problem putting on a pair of sunglasses and going back to camp where she killed dozens of people, you'll enjoy the movie. The premise isn't any sillier than the Friday the 13th movies, and people seem to love those. At one point, Angela fishes a hockey mask out of the lake and then asks what day it is. When you know it's Saturday the 14th. I almost laughed. Once again, Angela manages to kill everyone at camp without arousing anyone's suspicion. It's the same plot as the first two movies, but it still works. If you saw the first two, you have to see this. Oh, I don't agree with you, fan. We don't have to see this.
If you saw the first two, you've already seen this, is what they should have said. But enough about them. What about us? Tuan, do we cash or pass Sleepaway Camp 3? Teenage Wasteland. I don't, I'm so, like, I'm not expecting what you're going to say. Like, I'm on the edge of my seat. So tell us.
I eliminate myself from the docket. I won't be answering any questions, but we will be passing. We will be passing on Sleepaway Camp, Teenage Wasteland. This was
100%.
yeah, this was a it was a movie that was filmed, that was shot. Somebody screened it to an audience, and we had to watch it. It's not even like the worst movie that I've seen. It's not even like in that like category. It's just extremely lazy and boring, and that's kind of like worse because that's kind of worse about paying off because you've seen bad movies where you can get saved by some aspects, but this isn't really one of
The
those.
last one got
Yeah,
saved by some aspects.
yeah, you're right. And this isn't really one of those. The only thing that minorly, a little sliver, gives this one is like some of the kills and the way that they were presented, like the one with the fake like cocaine or the one with like the wiffle ball pole and she's like dropped from it. Like those two are good. There were some things like that, but um it's not enough to kind of save the movie itself here. And we're not really given much to do with these characters besides wait for Angela to get one or two of them alone and to take them out. So, yeah, I definitely will pass on Sleepaway Camp 3 and fortunately not ready to see what's coming in the next one.
Well, Teron, like you, I will also be passing on Sleepaway Camp 3, and for all of the same reasons that you said. And there's no need for me to rehash them. I share your opinion on them, on the reason why through and through. And I'm kind of interested in seeing what we're going to get next movie because, like I said when we started, I've only seen the first three. So I don't know what's coming next, and I'm terrified, but I'm also interested, if that makes any sense. Like I'm not
Mm-hmm.
expecting anything great, but because I don't know what I'm walking into, I am excited. With the first three, I knew something going in. So I'm going in blind, and I'm excited for it. So
The
you
fact that
guys are
it's a
going to figure.
sequel and not a reboot or a requel is crazy.
Especially given the era when it was filmed. Like y'all were rebooting everything. Like,
That's facts.
but join us next week as we review Return to Sleepaway Camp. Until then, good night.
If you like this episode, please be sure to check out some from the Haddonfield Horror Cemetery, where we've covered big franchises such as Friday the 13th, Halloween, and Saw, or one-off reviews like The Blackening or Hereditary. You can follow Haddonfield Horrors on Instagram and TikTok, where the host posts updates and mini reviews. Full episodes are available on several podcasting platforms, including Spotify, as well as YouTube. If you're listening to us on YouTube, please be sure to like and subscribe. The Haddonfield Horrors podcast is produced by Mark Smart, Tawan Griffin, and Elian Cordova, themed by Lethal Injection, and edited by Mark Smart.
The Haddonfield Horror Podcast is a Letter to Media production.
Should we do an intro?